Hey everybody, this is Maribon Aranchad, and we're here on the summit, of course, and it's a pleasure and an honor to welcome Allan Iverson, who is a fantastic source of information and knowledge about all things tennis equipment. And he is a sales rep, I believe, for Babolat and for all of Southern California, actually. And so I've spoken with Allan a couple of times on the summit. And I've really appreciated his knowledge about what type of gear we can use to help us improve our game, which is this really important aspect, to choose the right gear for your physicality and everything. So, Allan, I just want to welcome you, and I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for letting me come on. I know it's been a busy week for you. You've got a lot done this week.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's amazing to think that it's already pretty much the last day of all the summit sessions. So yeah, it's really exciting. But I just want to overall ask you, Allan, about and I asked you this, before preparing for this session, why should we be up to date with the tech trends and equipment tech, I guess, to why is that important for us?
Well, what's happened in rackets, footwear, really, and in string is that it makes all the difference. RPM, came on the market, and you've got people like Nadal and Schiavone winning the French Open, and it radically changed their games. I mean, Pete Sampras said if he had, RPM and the bigger headed, brackets that he's using now, he would have won the French Open. And so changes in technology make a huge difference in how you can play. It's very unique though, right? Because your product has to be personalized to you and your feel and your game style. So knowing those elements and how to work with those helps you to adapt your game to what's now happening in the sport.
Awesome, Allan. So, yeah, I'm not sure if you can generally give an assessment of the changes, but what has happened over the years that have been pretty substantial changes that in gear and equipment and so forth?
Well, I think you've had great playing product like Natural Gut, which has provided power for rackets. But as rackets have gotten more powerful, there's been a need for better control and spin. Hence, polyesters have come about. And the funny thing that's happening on the polyester side is it's really a durability, control, and spin story. But now we're starting to talk about even more as playability. They're trying to make that material more powerful, more responsive, to give these mid-power rackets more control and spin. On the footwear side, it used to be a comfort or just a durability story, and now you've got running manufacturers like Sfx came in and made a lightweight shoe that really made maneuvering around the court much faster and easier. Now those shoes aren't as stable, but the goal has been to make a lightweight shoe more stable and still a high performance shoe. So for us, that's our jet, but there's other manufacturers trying to do the lightweight trend also. So all of our product has become more and more adaptive to certain tastes and what people like. You can't just make one product for everybody. And so understanding where you fit and how this product's made for what you like is really important. So that could be stringing, could be shoes, rackets, used to have a really small head and a real big head. Now you've got the mid-size, which is what Babolat brought into being, but you've got a mid-size 100, you got a mid-size, 98, you've got 102s. There's a lot of different ranges, and understanding those variables and what you like will be important.
Awesome, Allan. And so let's just take one aspect that you mentioned, which is footwear. And so I'm wondering where and how we should approach it in terms of where do we draw the line when we want, we want a light shoe that performs really well, but then we also want something that's stable. We want something that lasts. So what's the approach there?
Well, you gotta understand what your expectations are. If you want durability and support, you're gonna have a firmer ride. Now, back in the day, if you got a shoe and you got a blister, you just deal with it and go through that. Now, all shoes have to have great at-once comfort. Babolat's in that same tact. This would be an example of a highly durable shoe. You can see it runs up a little higher. You've got stability straps on the heel and the back. This is the Propulse Rage. You got a blister. You got laces. More durable in terms of the sole. So this is a more supportive, durable shoe. A lot of padding on the top of the foot, so it's still a comfortable shoe. Then you go to something like this. Now you get more of a breathable, lighter upper. That we do a lot of work to have it supportive, but it still doesn't have the bands that does. You still got great, really comfortable footbed with a lot of grip on it, but it's a lighter weight shoe. It's not going to last quite as long, but this would be your game day performer, or maybe your general performer. If you're not hard on shoes, you might like something light like this. If you're a super hard mover, you might like the support of a shoe like this. Part of that's going to be personal preference. What do you like? And that's going to be experiencing the shoe. The third element you get to, and this is where you know the right fit for you. So even if someone, a manufacturer says this is an 11.5 and that's normally your shoe, you got to make sure to try the shoe on. If it doesn't feel right, get the right sizing. Because all shoes, you're not only trying to find the right length, you're trying to find the right width in upper volume. So pay attention what that feels like. For us, this is our Sfx shoe. This is a wider shoe with more cushioning. So this is more comfort. So you got 3 categories. You've got a lightweight performer. You've got durability and support, 6-month guarantee. And then you've got more of a wider fit comfort story. If you're fit wider, you know, you're going to have a few less options, but you want to make sure you have a very comfortable footbed, not only on the bottom, but on the top of the shoe.
Love it, Allan. So we're getting some questions. So if you don't mind, we might hop around, you know, from different types of equipment. So we've got a great question from Hakan Insili, which you can see on the screen, which is 16 by 19 or 18 by 20. What is the most distinguishing characteristics of these rackets? And I'll just start it off by saying there's even more types than that, because I have a 16 by 20 Pure Aero VS. But yeah, please, if you could help with that question, Allan, that'd be great.
So this is the Pure Strike 18 by 20, okay? Typically in Europe, this is a more popular racket. This is what Dominic Thiem uses. So a denser pattern will give you better tension maintenance. It's going to give you better durability for your strings and more control, but less power and spin. So this, you know, on the European side, the clay court players tend to like a denser pattern. Now Nadal's in a Pure Aero. That's a 16 by 19 pattern. This is what you'll see him in a lot. It's a 16 by 19 pattern. So a more dense pattern, more control, better tension maintenance, more durability to your strings, less power and spin. And there's always advantage drawbacks, and they're trying to mitigate some of that with the rackets. You know, we've opened up the pattern on the 18 by 20 a little wider here. So you're getting some of that power and spin you can get with the 16 by 19. But it's still a matter of, you know, going out and hitting with both those rackets with a string that you normally play with to know what you like.
Awesome, Allan. Great stuff. I'm just, I'm seeing a lot of questions, which is exciting. And so we've got one from Gregory here, which is, and we'll try to get to all of them. With gear, would you suggest picking something you're confident with and sticking with it, or continuing to tinker in order to continue to evolve? Great question.
Well, it was funny. I was, you know, I mean, obviously we've all had more time to watch tennis videos over this time. And, you know, Song has been a great player for us, and he tends to like to try different product. And he's been a Pure Aero user at the Australian Open. He was in the Pure Drive, which is an even more powerful racket. So one of the things you always want to be aware of is first stringing, because that's at least 50% of the performance of what you want. Now, it's the string and the racket in combination that work together. As you get to a more thick beam like this versus a thinner beam like this is going to give me more feel and control. As I get into more of a thicker beam like this is more power. So you're trying to find the most powerful racket you can control. The strings now come part of that. If you put a polyester string in, you're going to get more control and spin. Just be careful because those strings are more durable, but there's also a little bit firmer on your arm. And that's why there's a move to make polyester softer to make them more playable, more powerful, but also easier on your arm. So the racket and the string together, that's where the demo process is a little tricky. You know, if you find a racket you really like, you want to make sure you're customizing, you know, the string too. And that's where having a regular shop that you deal with who knows you and your game, and even if there's a teaching pro who can consult, work that out. Now, what that teaching pro like and what you like could be two different things because it's your hand at the end of the day. No one can tell you what you like. Now, part of it is you start to take notes. You use the racket, put a note in your phone. Hey, I really felt like I get great power today, but I didn't have as much control on my ground strokes. It might, you know, and you take these notes on the string, how you liked it week 1, week 2, week 3, because you're trying to figure out playability over the lifetime and over a period of time. Now, sometimes in the demo process, you use a racket and right away you don't like it. Then trust that instinct and go to the next level. But understand beam width is what you're working with. Head size will give you more power. So a bigger head size, more power, but less maneuverability and control. Smaller head size, more control, but less power, better maneuverability.
Great, Allan. And another question for you, just curious, I mean, maybe a selfish question, but it'll help others. How about the 16 by 20? What type of player should use a 16 by 20, do you think?
Well, 16 by 20 is kind of a blend, right? Where you're getting a little more cross strings for control, but it's still in more open pattern. And what's changing in terms of patterns is not only how much what the string bed is, but how many strings are, how the width isn't always consistent. So this is the racket you and I will be talking about after this podcast, because this is the new Pure Aero VS. Just out 16 by 20 pattern, but a little more open at the top, a little more dense at the bottom where you're hitting the ball. I mean, what's changed the way Babolat's done their product is that with this racket, we had a computerized racket called the Play Racket that Nadal and Wozniacki were using that was showing us where people were hitting. And it tends to be higher for topspin shots and serves, more center for flats and slice shots. So we raise the sweet spot even higher and open the pattern up here where you're actually hitting the ball. So this is a new model for us, and you can see it's a little different beam width than what you know with the Pure Aero VS, where it's aero all the way through, not just at the throat, but also here at the head size.
Awesome. Great stuff, Allan. And feel free to stop me at any time if you want to keep going, or, going to more in depth into the trends. But I mean, it's just, we're getting a lot of questions here. So we can read another one if you don't mind.
Great.
And great. And this one's by Gregory Shed, as you can see on the screen. With gear, would you? Oh, I'm sorry. There's another one. By Jeff. Most of us aren't sponsored and can't afford to buy the latest and greatest every year. How do amateurs distinguish between real inflection point improvements and incremental cosmetic ones?
Well, I think that the first thing that you really want to pay attention to is your stringing. Racket is very good. I mean, what's happened in rackets is they're so well made, you can use a racket longer. Before, when you had just box frame rackets, like for us, this would be our Pure Strike. You can see this frame is all box frame, which gives you great flex and feel. So it's a great traditional racket. But now as you've gone into more elliptical or rounded, like an airplane wing rackets, these are more hollow. They move through the air faster. They're stiffer. They hold up better. You want to pay attention to your stringing. That's where, polyester as a economic choice has been very popular because it breaks less. You just got to pay attention to adjust your stringing and be willing, if that polyester starts to go dead, to redo it. So with rackets, it is a little tricky because sometimes with your more traditional beams, like the first one I showed you, they don't change a lot because it's more of a traditional feel. What Babolat does in terms of our product is a product line like the Pure line change on a 3-year cycle, because that's a pretty decent cycle for most people to be looking for changes on. And the changes are incremental. What the changes you're seeing now are more in terms of feel and vibration dampening. So for us, we've added a smack material that reduces vibration because more people are using stiffer materials to string their racket, like a polyester. And people are looking for high performance in comfort, which is really, that's where we're, the feel has been more and more refined. People are, expectations of comfort and performance are higher. So pay attention to your stringing, turn on probably a two or 3 year cycle, and work with your experts. If you have a local expert at a pro shop who you trust, that's what you want to know. And at the end of the day, try it out, take notes, and trust your instincts, but understand the variables you're working with.
Got it. I appreciate that. And so back a little bit to, questions from me about like the trends in equipment. What are some either upcoming or maybe recent trends in rackets in particular? And then based on that, like what steps should we take to actually select the proper frame for us? And, what if there's any resources too, you can shout those out.
Yeah, I mean, we have a website, the Babolat US website's a good way to go. There's other really good reviews on all the different internet dealers. They do a lot of great testing. So choose a dealer who you're comfortable with. And that's, I think you'll find someone like a Tennis Warehouse does a great job of independent testing where they test the rackets, where they have a poor little guy who sits in about a 10 foot by 10 foot room. And he tests all these rackets. So you can look at a racket and he's going to say, okay, this racket, these are the power levels, 80%, 90%, 100%. Wherever it is, he'll show you the power level on the racket, and you can compare rackets. I like it because it's an independent test away from all tennis manufacturers under Tennis University, and they'll give you their take on how they measured the product. And then you have video reviews, which are good, but they're more subjective. This person likes this type of racket, they like that type of racket. So those are helpful, and all, you get a lot of great reviewers. But everyone has their bias once you get into that. What's the racket they normally use? That's going to influence that.
Got it, Allan. Really great question here from Yusuf. I feel your pain because definitely at one point I was trying different Babolat rackets. And I mean, just the colorway of the Pure Strike is gorgeous, especially with the orange. And, eventually I just went back to the Pure Aero VS. But we have a question from Yusuf that's asks, hi, I'm torn between buying the Pure Aero and the Pure Drive, two great rackets. Any pointers?
Well, this is the response you're looking for. And it's really tricky because these rackets are the same head size. Basically, they're both 16 by 19, same weight. The Pure Aero is meant for someone who wants to swing, who swings faster, who wants hits with a lot of spin, and wants a little less response. So this racket is actually stiffer at the throat and softer at the top. The grommets are a little more open here, where they're more round grommets on the Pure Drive. But the basic idea is that right up to impact, this will move through the air faster. It's actually 11% more dynamic than the other models, and softer at the tip. So the other racket is the Pure Drive, and this is really where it all started for Babolat, our heritage racket. We're hoping to change it around US Open this year. Fognini's been in this. Kleisers, Moya was the first guy for Babolat to win a Grand Slam with this tournament, get to number one. Nadal had started with this racket until we developed the Aero for him. This racket has a stiff throat, not as stiff as the Aero, but it's more responsive at the tip, more powerful. And that's why for serving, Roddick loved this racket. This is our best serving racket. So more responsive, but when you're choosing a racket, you're trying to find the most powerful racket you can control. So for serving best, for ground stroke power, even better. But when the ball comes fast, now it's coming off faster. Can you control that? So, we have a lot of heavy spin users here using this racket also, but it's more powerful. You're trying to find the most powerful racket you can control. Now, part of that's racket and part of that will be stringing.
Got it, Allan. Great stuff. I guess we'll take another question. There's so many. This one might be a little quicker for you, which is, Doesn't Team use a Pro Stock racket? Is that right? Or is it
Well, it's funny. I thought we did a lot of customization for his racket, this 18 by 20. And he was like in the original Pure Strike from way back when. He uses this racket, but they just weighted a little bit more. But it's the exact same setup. What changed a lot on this racket, to kind of take a tangent, what's trending hard in rackets is making more and more comfortable and adding more vibration dampening. So we have a smack material in all 3 models to make the rackets more comfortable on your arm and to reduce vibration. This has twice as much as any racket, even though it's our thinnest beam. He uses this racket, and he uses it with a new polyester here called RPM Power. So it's a little hard to notice on TV, but this is actually like an electric brown color, and it produces great spin, but it's for a different type of player. You know, RPM Blast will give you more spin. This will give you great spin, but more power, and it's made for someone who likes to spin the ball more through the court versus someone who likes to hit a heavier rolling ball like a Nadal. So this is a more powerful poly. This is the combination he's using right now.
Got it, Allan. And yeah, so in Orlando, I was lucky enough to go to the Rackets Sports and Paddle show, I believe. And so I tested the new Pure Aero VS, excuse me, with the RPM Power, and I loved it. Like, the power was amazing, and I was just ripping the ball. So it was really, really nice experience. So we got some more questions, if you don't mind. One from Andrew. I find rackets are being made more stiffer than previous years. Why are companies doing so? Do you find that, Allan?
Well, I mean, the rackets are more responsive. You know, for Babolat, they've always made a pretty responsive racket. Our rackets have probably over time gotten a little bit softer. And it's really an amazing thing because Babolat hasn't been making rackets as long as they've made strings. We've been making strings for 140 years. We're the oldest company. But rackets really only about 20. And, you know, I think other manufacturers have been trying to follow the trend of having a responsive racket like what Babolat makes. But understand, what you're looking for is not just a responsive racket, but something with a bigger sweet spot. So find a racket that's big and forgiving. That's really what I like about the Babolat rackets. It's not only a powerful racket, but more forgiving. But to Andrew's point, we're adding more and more dampening because of changes in string and trying to make these rackets not only responsive, but comfortable.
Gotcha. Thanks, Allan. Let's see what we got. Okay. Oh, there's a question about which combination would help produce most spin. So what kind of combo are we looking at in terms of rackets and string to produce a lot of spin?
Well, you know, really a loosely strung polyester creates the most spin. You know, what happens with polyester is that it is slicker. It has a higher burn rate. That's why it doesn't break so fast, but it also moves and snaps back faster. So it moves better with the ball to create the spin. And that's really the big value of that. Now, if you find that the polyester is hard on your arm, or you want something that's going to hold tension better, because poly is going to lose tension in about 20 hours, you lost about half your tension. You won't notice that loss as much because it's less powerful a string. But what a lot of pros do is they put either the RPM or polyester on the main and then gut cross. And this is the most reactive material. So if you put RPM here, you're going to get durability and spin. And the softer string, like a gut or a multi-filament, will give you a softer surface, better tension maintenance. Some pros flip it and they go gut, main, polycross. It's going to be more powerful, but the gut still flexes well and helps for spin, but it won't give you quite as much spin as polyester on the main. So you really got 3 choices there. The pros are usually hybriding with gut, usually gut, main, polycross, or all poly, usually looser. You know, and this is where you got to be careful. Back in the day, to get control, people were stringing their softer strings tight. With polyester, you don't need to do that as much because it's not as powerful material, and it could lead to arm injury because it's a firmer material.
Thanks, Allan. And so now kind of a question from me. What is the general approach to figuring out what string is for you? Because I know for a lot of people, obviously you have different kinds of string, and then different brands and different gauges, and then also obviously the different tension that you can play with. So what's like a kind of a game plan or a roadmap that you can give people to help them really finally figure out what string can work best for them?
Well, I mean, the string market, it's not as expensive to get in the string market. So the amount of string companies is amazing, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different string companies. That's where it's tricky. And there's a lot of misinformation around that, right? Because people are just trying to hype up what their string is. So you want to figure out what benefits you're looking to get. If I go to a softer string, like a natural gut or a multi-filament, those type of strings will give me more power, more comfort, and better tension maintenance. If I go to polyester, I'm going to get more spin and control and great durability, but it's going to be a little harder on my arm, and tension maintenance not as good. So those are my trade-offs. If I hybrid the two, then I can work with that. Now, what you're seeing in polyesters, you want to start reading, if you like the poly, but some of them are too softer, now you're getting into polyesters like we've had an RPM, we had an RPM team. This is RPM rough for us.
Mhm.
What's happening on this market is you've got a polyester string that is softer. So I get some of the benefits of the poly, but it's a little easier on my arm. We make that in 3 colors, in a black, this optic red shot through the Pure Strike, those type of strings. And this is where you're working with a local stringer and string shop that can give you some advice, and you're taking your own notes. I use this string, I like it this way. And I know you're not necessarily wanting to change out your string a lot, but it's worth it to find the right combination, because this is the engine to your car. This, besides the racket, is at least half the story. And strings will continue to evolve. So reading reviews and checking out specs is important. So a softer poly is great for spin and control, but you might, it just depends how often you go through the strings. And so taking your own notes, periodic, you don't have to do it every time you're out, but knowing what you like is really important, not only day one, but week 3, week 4, however long you keep your strings. You should be changing your strings as many times as you play in a week. So if you're only playing once a week, just every 6 months is fine. But if you're playing 2 or 3 times, you want to think about a 3 or 4 month cycle.
Thanks, Allan. And so one question that very good question. And sometimes I make fun of my friend for this because he has a Pure Control that I think is probably like 16 years old, but he still loves it. But Sharish asks, how can we tell when a racket is done? I mean, the racket looks okay externally, but has been put through its paces for over a couple of years by a 4.0 plus player. So what are your thoughts on that, Allan?
Part of it's going to depend on the beam width. The thicker beams are gonna soften up, but they're still going to be pretty responsive. Believe it or not, the hardest thing you do to a racket, unless you're abusive like throwing it, isn't to play with it, it's to restring it, because there's unequal pressures on the frame. That's the hardest thing. So if you restring a lot, then it's time to change out your racket. If you're not restringing as much, then you can give it more time. I'd have to know what kind of racket it is, but pay attention to how often you string it. If you have a local dealer with an RDC machine, he can test to flex the racket and let you know what it is compared to a new one. And that gives you a more specific measurement. But stringing, how often you string, is really a critical element.
Thanks, Allan. And actually related on that, you talk about obviously that stringing is a huge pressure on the racket. So what can we do when we're stringing to try to minimize that impact on the racket so that they can last longer?
If you're personally stringing your racket, so for you guys home stringing there,
Yeah.
don't string one piece if your mains finish at the bottom, right? So if you go bottom up on a racket, it's very hard on the racket itself. So if your mains finish at the bottom near the throat, do a 2-piece string job. When you're stringing, don't pull more than three mains at a time. If you can do 1 or 2, it's even better, because that creates a more unequal pressure. So if you string all 1 mains on one side, that's definitely going to lead to a problem. Finish your string job when you start it. Don't leave a racket partially strung on your stringer, because it's creating that unequal pressure really tough. Now, the better machine you have, the easier it is, because they have 10-point mounting systems, so there's more points on the racket to help give it support, where the 2-point system is a little tougher. And this is where you're going to, so when you really trust to, you might like this home stringer, but check the quality of the string job. Not just, when you're looking at stringing and how you like it, you're looking at how you like the overall string job, but how even are the strings? If your strings are coming out and there's a bowing to them, the stringer's not re-straightening them. And if they're left that way overnight, they're going to fix that way. They won't come back to the right area. So get a stringer who strings right, gives you a nice, 90-degree look to your strings. You want the right look when you're done.
Got it. And sorry, I just want to clarify, like when you say the mains end at the bottom, like can you kind of illustrate for us as far as that?
So this is your main string. This is your most important string on the racket. This is strung first. So you string these coming this way, going top to bottom or bottom to top. And then you do what's called the cross string. That's horizontal. That's strung second. So that's what you want to pay attention to on the rack. You can see this is a 4-piece stringer. See how I have the different knots. So if I got 4 knots, see the 2 here, 1 up here, that's a 2-piece string job. If I want to see 2 knots, they just strung it with 1 piece. So 1 piece, they only started at the mains and finished at the bottom with the crosses. This one, we finished at the bottom, but then started again at the top. That's why you see the knot. You can see it there up here.
Gotcha. Thanks, Allan. Yeah, there's just so many questions. Let's see what else. Can you recommend a string that has the playability of a non-poly and life of a poly? Should I modify gauge instead?
Well, the gauge question's a great question too. So, what you want to get in, things have gotten better, right? They're making polyester, which is a great control, softer. You can get thinner gauges. So thinner, and it's tricky when you talk about string gauges, because it's a plumber measurement. So it's how many fit within a diameter. So if I say 18 gauge, that's actually thinner than 17 gauge or 16 gauge, or even a 15 gauge, excuse me. So Nadal used the 15 gauge because he likes the durability and the control. And there's pretty good snapback on a 15 gauge if you string it loose, but it's tougher on your arm. So if you like poly, you could use a thinner gauge and make it easier, or you can start to hybrid it with a thin gauge poly on the main and a thicker gauge, like 16 gauge on the cross, and like a 17 or 18 gauge on the main, if you're not breaking strings. And this is where you start to track your string. How long is this string lasting for me? Hey, that lasts 3 months. That's a pretty, for how much I play, that's a good idea. And, knowing like those parameters we talked about before, how much you're playing and how much life you're getting, that's going to be the key. So you can go with thinner poly to make it play better. You could do a poly combination. Unfortunately, like I've asked questions like, hey, why not take like a natural gut and add polyester to it to make it more durable? Now, Babolat over the years has made their construction of gut in thicker strands to give it more durability, but it's still a softer playing performance story with great power. But whatever you add, and this is where the trick, this is why Babolat's natural gut is the best. Whatever coating I put on a soft string, it's only going to flex to the level of that coating. So if I put a stiffer material in a softer string, it's only going to flex to like that stiffer material. And so that's where you got to be. That's where it's tricky with the softer strings. You want to add a good coating, but if it's too stiff, it makes the string too stiff.
Got it. Excellent stuff here. Just scrolling through a little bit, but let's see. What is the advantage? Oh, interesting. What is the advantage or disadvantage to shoes that are low to the ground, and how do you distinguish them from others when trying to purchase shoes?
Ron, that's a fantastic question. And that's really been really the challenge in shoes. You know, a lot of Babolat shoes are low to the ground because that's the best performance story. But you've had other manufacturers come in and really create a lot of cushion. So great cushioning is going to give you good comfort, but not as good a feel for the ground. So that's your trade-off. It's like a sports car. If I really get a nice sports car and I drive it in sport mode, I'm going to feel the road better, but I'm also going to feel more discomfort. So a more padded shoe will give me more comfort, but less feel for the ground. So this is where, you know, people like Pete Sampras, you know, started with the original Pro Staff, and when Nike was making the Air Oscillate, it was a very low to the ground shoe because that was the feel he liked. But I think that's their trade-off. You're trying to find the lowest ground to the ground shoe you can with the most comfort. So typically a lightweight performer will give you better feel for the ground, but less durability. Whereas a more durable shoe was going to give you more cushion because there's more sole between you and in the court.
Got it. So question from me, Allan. I've heard the advice that like when choosing rackets, you should just basically try to find the heaviest racket that you can use like somewhat comfortably. And that's kind of the approach that you should be taking. But like, what is your approach? And you can comment on that as well, as far as how to find, I mean, a great racket, the best racket for you, besides, of course, testing.
Well, I think what's happened back in the day when the racket beam widths and head sizes were basically almost the same, the only way you got a more powerful racket was to make it heavier. So, you know, wood came in a lot of different weights, but not a lot of different head sizes. The same thing when you got to the all graphite rackets. You don't need as heavy a racket now. You've had some racket manufacturers come out with tour models, and those were the most return rackets, you know, for these big manufacturers because they were too heavy for a normal player. What's happened with these more elliptical beams is, since this is stiffer and moves through the air faster, I don't really need as heavy a racket. So weights on the tour are going down especially for the younger players. Now, also, we're seeing a change in how people play. You know, we came out with the Pure Strike because, you know, back in the day, you had guys 10 feet behind the baseline hitting ground strokes, big looping ground strokes. Well, now all these guys are taking pretty big swings and taking the ball earlier. So, you know, Agassi kind of started that trend. You know, you see Djokovic way in the court. You know, Pui, who has been injured for a while, but coming back. I mean, he stands inside the baseline. So, you know, they're looking for a little more response in a lighter, more maneuverable racket. If it's too heavy, I'm going to have trouble maneuvering. So weight gives you power, but less maneuverability. Now, I can get a lighter weight, more elliptical racket, and I'm getting great power, but in maneuverability, but I'm not having to struggle with the weight so much. So, you know, at the pro level, they do add some weight for stability just because the ball speed is so fast. But find the right racket head size you like. Usually the best is going to be between a 98 and 100. If you need more margin, you swing slow, you can go to an oversized. But typically what's selling on market is a 97 to 100 square inch racket because it's a great blend of smaller head for control, bigger head for power. It's right in between where you get both benefits.
Awesome, Allan. Appreciate that. So we have, let's see. Oh, good question. Brent, when looking for a new racket, how much attention should we pay to swing weight and balance?
A lot. I mean, it's really tricky because we can talk about two rackets that are 10.6 ounces unstrung and they play totally different because of where the balance is. Babolat, typically, when we go lighter, we add more weight to the head to give it more power. The original lightweight rackets were not very powerful because there was not enough in weight in the head. So we're easy to move, but no power because where your mass is makes a big difference. For us, as we go heavier, we make the racket more headlight, so we still get that some of that maneuverability trade-off as you go heavier. But that's, again, this is personal preference. What do you like? You know, if we start to get into our tour rackets, you'll see a little bit of difference. When we say tour, there's more weight towards the head. So what, like, you know, in the Pure Aero VS, that has more weight in the head because it's made for a higher skill level player who can still maneuver that heavier weight racket. And so that's a great question. And then really how the rackets light up. So we can talk about weight, but, you know, there's 17 flex points on a racket. You know, if it's stiffer at the tip, like the Pure Drive and Pure Aero, it's going to be more powerful, even though it's the same weight.
Right, exactly, Allan. And yeah, if you all can see, I have a Pure Strike 16 by 19 there. I can't point properly, but anyway, behind my right shoulder. So this is a really good one from Gregory, which is, since stringing seems paramount, any comments on hybrid string patterns, co-poly versus poly? And then you talked about this a little bit, I think, but tension and also, other stuff as well.
Well, let's talk about tension, and we'll start talking about hybrid. So tension is critical. If I string tighter, I get more control. I get more control over the ball, but less comfort, less power. If I string looser, I get more power. I get more comfort. Now, where it's tricky for polyester, you got a guy like Jack Sock, who would string like 26, 34 loose. Other guys like Nadal, he's typically 54 no matter where he's at. Other guys will change according to conditions, right? If it's hotter and higher altitude, they'll string tighter because it's a faster condition. And the balls come into this too. So tension, more tighter, more control, less power, less comfort. Lower tension, more comfort, more power, less control because it's more responsive. Hybrid stringing, your main string, like we were talking about stringing earlier, this main string, this is your main response to the ball. So if you put a polyester string here, you're going to get durability control. If you hybrid with the softer string, that's going to make it more comfortable and give you better tension maintenance. And this is where it's tricky. You say, okay, I'm going to change to a hybrid from my polyester, or I'm going to go from my multi-filament to a hybrid for more spin and control. Don't change too many elements at one time. I know there's a cost factor here, but change one thing at a time. So if you're going to change your string material or setup, don't change tension, because now you change two variables. It's going to be hard for you to know what made the difference. Maybe you like your polyester, but you like it better after 3-4 weeks, string it looser. Or maybe you're fine, you don't have enough control with your poly, string a little tighter, but just pay attention to your arm in terms of how it feels. So great question. And again, gauges come in here too. Thinner gauge is going to give me more response, a little more spin, more comfort, but less durability. Higher gauge, more durability, more control.
Sweet. Awesome, Allan. I want to ask you a little bit about clothing as well. And also, just to interject, we're going to give away some stuff later on after after a bunch of questions, but because that was asked earlier. But as far as like clothing too, I was wondering if you have any thoughts on that, because you see athletes these days and companies producing these garments together that like really elevate their performance, and every point, every second counts. So I was wondering if you could kind of touch upon anything related to clothing as well and the trends.
Well, what are the sweat wicking has really been back in the day. You had Fila, who created great looking, we're talking about 80s with Bora, great looking, Egyptian cotton, very comfortable. But the problem with cotton is it's more comfortable, but it wicks the sweat and then it holds it, and it doesn't wick it evenly. So your garment becomes very heavy. Polyester materials are doing much better because they can wick and do it more quickly on your body. But they get heavy. So we've done some different things with material that not only wick faster, but also your body heats it up and dries it off quicker. Or, when it's colder, your body heat warms up the garment and helps keep you warmer. So we've done some work with product like that. Also, you want to look at fit. And this is where every manufacturer is different in terms of fit. A medium for a Nike or Adidas or any manufacturer, even for us in your competition versus a performance line, it's going to fit differently in different body types. So find the right fit for you and try to find something that's tennis specific, because there's a range of motion we need for tennis where, you would want, a drop sleeve where it's cut here at your shoulders. So you've got a better range of motion. This is the basic cotton tee I'm wearing, which is great for comfort, but for performance, I'm going to want more of a drop sleeve here. So I've got better range of motion. What's happened on the men's short sizes, what length do you like? Agassi wore his shorts to his knees, then it got a little higher. Now the short length's more around 7 inches because it allows for more movement. Do you like compression underneath? Some shorts are going to include that underneath. do you want that extra compression? If you're having issues in your hips or in your back and you need more support, I would definitely recommend that.
Got it, Alan. Awesome. Let's see. So we have a bunch more. Oh, interesting. David Small asks, any thoughts on sticky strings such as the Black Widow strings? And I use it on my Babolat Pure Arrow, which I think David meant 98, but you wrote 28. So 98 frame. I get a lot of spin with it. So any thoughts on sticky strings like Black Widow?
I mean, Black Widow's at a nice place in the market. You want to pay attention to, that string, that if it's giving you a good bite, that's great. I mean, I think what we've done is you want to pay attention not only to the type of material, but the construction. So like a blast is 8-sided, so it moves more. Rough is 8-sided, but it's indented, so it moves even better. So pay attention to that. Try not to get confused. Some of these manufacturers are talking about an edge giving you spin. It's really the movement of the string that gives you the spin.
Gotcha. Excellent. And interesting. Well, this one for you, and this could be a chance to kind of talk about the different rackets and the properties of the Babolat line as well. But what racket produces the most spin?
With our line, it's going to be the Pure Arrow for a couple of reasons. The patterns, it's 16 by 18 pattern. It's more open here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can see it well. The grommets themselves are more rectangular here, and that creates more string movement. So this racket was created for someone who's swinging fast, wanting to create a lot of spin. Our Pure Drive has that too, where the grommets are rounded, but this grommet system, which isn't really a new idea to the industry, but it does work to make the mains move better with the ball. So in general, no matter the string, this is going to be our most string-oriented racket. But all the Babolat patterns we're interested in response, in power, and big sweet spot. All the Babolat product plays that way. This is the most responsive though.
Awesome. So another one, of course. So I'm not sure if you know this information, Alan, but maybe you do. So Martin asks, weight is important as well. So what real weight in grams is Nadal using, and also team?
Nadal's about 20 grams heavier than a normal Pure Arrow. Team, I don't know as much. I know he's heavier. I know he uses original, he uses our racket, like the current 1820. I was just talking to our tour rep, Seth McKinley, about that, but I didn't ask weight. So I'm not sure exact weight on his. He's using RPM power, but he uses a production racket that they weight. And all these guys have a certain customization. We have a customization team that works. I mean, it's an interesting process for Babolat, because Babolat really started as a string manufacturer who strung for the tour for 20 years, literally traveled around with the tour. We still do the spec. We go to Nadal and test the racket. We go to team and have them test our string. And we have a whole team of other pros that test our product. In fact, unfortunately, I was supposed to test the new Jet shoe, a new lightweight, perform with hopefully better cushioning, to the point earlier, in a new VS racket in the Strike line. But, with everything that's happening, we couldn't do it. So they do a lot of testing on that with these pros, and we actually spec out the rackets. And that's kind of how you learn. Porsche and Ferrari race, and that helps them create better cars.
Yeah, 100%, Alan. I like this comment from Keeter that I'm just putting up. I think you'll probably agree, Alan, maybe. Shouldn't Fed switch to Babolat in 100 square feet or 100 square inch racket?
Well, I mean, I think when he switched, and everyone thought he was in a 95, he was in an 88 racket, 88 square inch racket, which is, I can barely drop and hit the ball with that. Pete Sampras has switched into our Pure Control, and he's telling people with that and the combination of string, he would have won the French Open. I think a head surface helped you. And when he went up, and when Federer went up to his racket, it really did make a big difference. But Roger Federer, I think he's amazing. Him. I mean, we in terms of tennis, we couldn't be more fortunate to experience the quality. I mean, wow. I mean, Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal. We're seeing the three best tennis players that ever playing at the same time. It's amazing. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, we're all very grateful for that. It's amazing, like you said.
Absolutely, and they're great ambassadors. I mean, I think you look they're trying to come together and help out the tour players who haven't been able to play. I think that's really speaks to the great leaders that we have at the top of the game. We're really fortunate.
Yeah, for sure, Alan. So Lily is asking, what should the tension of the strings be for different types of strings?
Great question. Thank you. I mean, I think this is where if you're changing strings, it gets tricky. But when you go into polyester strings, string them looser. There's a racket manufacturer, usually puts a range on the inside of the racket. Typically the throat, sometimes it's towards the top of the tip. So for like Babolat, you'll see, I don't know if you can see very well, but for our rackets, now they're here. They used to be more in here. So all manufacturers will have that on there, or it could possibly be on the header card if you're looking at a new racket. Polyester strings, string them more loosely. String them lower in the range. High 40s is good for a polyester, depending on head size. A bigger head size, you can string tighter. A smaller head size, string looser. But high 40s is really good for a polyester string. If you're going with a multi-filament string, the mid-range kind of gives you both benefits of the power and control. And then you work that out, because at the end of the day, it's your hand and what you like. And so that's what you're trying to feel.
Yeah, excellent, Alan. One question I'll put on in a second because my screen froze. Oh, here we go. But with hybrid, this is a great question. With hybrid, should you use the same tension on both strings?
Well, that's where thinking has really changed. Now, this is where it's going to get a little technical, and you need to notice what kind of stringing machine they're using to string your racket. So at the Pro Tour, they always use an electric machine. So an electric machine, they put the string in the tension head and they press a button, and electric motors pull it back. That stringing strings 10% tighter than a crank string. So a crank stringer, which is not so popular in Europe, but more popular in the US because it's a less expensive stringing device, strings looser. So the thinking with that type of stringer, when you were stringing the crosses, there's more friction. You would string tighter for a hybrid. With an electric stringer, it's reading the tension of the string as you pull it. You don't need to change tensions on a hybrid for that. Typically, you'll string at the same tension for both. On the thinking with the crank stringers, you string your cross a little tighter because it's not really reading the tensions. It's on a spring release. It goes with that, so you string a little tighter for that. Typically, it's easier to keep that tension the same for both. If you have opportunity to have someone string an electric stringer, it's better. You're going to get better tension maintenance. Typically, those stringers have more tension mounts, so it's better on your racket head when it's strung. It's not just two mounts like on a crank stringer. That's what I prefer. You've got some people who really like the crank just because it's cheaper and a little easier to string on.
Got it. Thanks for that. And I worked out in this Babolat hat this morning, the live stream, so it was a little sweaty, but I put it on just to respect the brand. But let's see what we have here. We have any advantage to a 28 versus 27-inch racket? What do you think?
Oh, great question. So most of your bigger servers use what's called a plus racket. You can't see very well. Babolat distinguishes it with this plus on it. So Andy Roddick used a Pure Drive Tour Plus. It used to be called the Andy Roddick when we paid him. But it's an extended length racket. It's a half-inch longer. So if you look at these rackets in comparison, right, I've got them starting at the bottom. That's a half-inch. You say, Allan, does that really make a difference? Absolutely. So your bigger servers typically prefer an extended length racket. Andy Roddick, Sam Querrey, who already had has a big serve, extended length racket. Nadal team are in regular length rackets. Gorny Savinovic was longer length. Taylor Dent, if you remember that, great playing American, great server. Longer length. Pete Sampras is not longer length, but longer length rackets give you better power on serve and ground strokes, but it's a little less maneuverable. Some guys like Nalbandian have even went longer, like an inch longer. Typically, most extended lengths on our side are a ½ inch longer. Your good playing oversized rackets for people at a lower level who want power, they're typically a ½ inch longer too, to give you more power for the slower swing.
Thanks, Allan. I forgot, I should have asked you this before we started, but do you have an appointment or anything at 3?
No.
Okay, great. So we might go a little after, because there's just like so many.
I love to talk about product.
Yeah, I know. It's great. I think the first time we chatted, I remember I was in Giants and we chatted for like 20-30 minutes. But yeah, I love your knowledge here. So interesting one here by Albert Murata. To produce more spin, would you say the geometric shaped strings are not as important as the string's ability to snap back?
Well, I mean, it's all about creating less surface area. So with an RPM blast, like if you felt the string, you wouldn't go like, well, that's rough. You're like, some manufacturer coming out with edge string and saying that that gives you more spin. It doesn't. So that's the point. With RPM blast, it's 8-sided and it has a coating on it. So part of it's going to be the 8-sided creates less strings touching each other, so there's less friction. It will move more. With our rough, it's 8-sided, indented, again, less surface, but also there's a coating on these strings. So it's construction in the coating, these silicone coatings they put on, that'll make it move back and forth. Whereas, like, it's interesting, I'm going to tangent for a second. So part of what people are looking for the great snapback with RPM power, it actually has a different coating to create a different sound, more of a crisper noise. So sometimes people are looking for the snapback, but also now they're even customizing the sound that your string makes, because some people like a crisp sound, some people like a soft sound. It's just a personal preference at that point for sound.
Gotcha. Thanks, Allan. Oh, Irvin, we analyzed his volleys actually for the summit. That was really fun with Gigi Fernandez. But Irvin asks, I use a poly main and natural gut cross on the Pure Aero VS. Nice. Strung at 55. I always snap the poly and often within a couple weeks. I like this setup, but it gets expensive. Any ideas about what to try?
Depend on gauge, right? So, I'm not sure what gauge you're using. You could go to a little thicker gauge. We make RPM rough and RPM up to a 15 gauge. Nadal's in a 15 gauge because he likes the control. So you're going to get some control, better there, right? But it's going to be a stiffer setup now. So that's what you got to be careful about when you go to it. Keep your tension the same, but if it does get a little too stiff, you might want to think about turning that. So a thicker gauge will give you enhanced control.
Got it. Thanks for that. And let's see the next one. Beth, hello to you and your son. My son is 14 and he is watching right now. When you say knowing what you like, when you say knowing what you like is important in a string, what should he be looking for?
Well, this is where it's tricky, right? Because typically, I'm not sure who's coaching him or what program he's in. A tennis coach is going to love polyester string. Okay. Part of the reason is, talking to a buddy of mine, really good player the other day. Oh, I love this polyester string. I don't have to string it a lot because it doesn't break. But that doesn't mean it's the best performance story. So what you're figuring out with your son is, what you're starting to track is how often he's breaking. Now, depending on his level of play, if he's getting more towards an expert level and he's starting to break strings more, you should start to hybrid with the polyester, probably a polyester main in softer cross string. As he really starts to go another level and he needs more control, potentially he could go to all polyester, thinner gauge, and then go thicker and thicker if he needs that. But part of that is you're keeping a track of how's the string lasting, how does he like playability, week 1, week 2, week 3. And this is where you're figuring out what you like. And then, asking questions, you can check online or to your local shop, getting to someone who knows him and who is a local expert who can work with him is nice, right? That could be his tennis pro, but it could not. Sometimes they're up on product or not, and definitely could be his string pro, his pro shop. Everyone has their biases, but understand the variables you're working with as you go up.
Love it. Thanks, Allan. So we have one from Farhan, and I admit I actually don't know if we had, like, I'm not knowledgeable about the 16 by 15, but I play with a 16 by 15. Is that right? I like it. Should I change? Do you know of rackets with 16 by 15?
Oh yeah, I mean
Oh,
they developed that. You know, Mark Woodford used one, so I mean, uh, the control level's a little tough with that racket. Spin level is ridiculous because it's a super open pattern. So there's a lot of movement to that. It's just that pattern's incredibly hard on strings. So you know, if you go to a denser pattern, you're going to get more control, but less spin, a little less power.
wow, very interesting. Did not know that. Thanks for the question, Farhan. Andrew, they just keep coming there here, Alan. I have a 15-year-old high-level junior player. When he was 13 or so, he used poly and developed tennis elbow. I went to a multi, but now he wants to go back to poly. Any recommendations?
I would pick us if you want to go, and you're making a big jump, right? Because and this is a great concern, and my concern with poly use. I mean, people love the control and spin they get with polyester. You know, like we talked about earlier, Pete Sampras calls it cheating. He used to use natural gut, but he used to have to string it super tight to get control. He loves the control of it. You know, Agassi and Quertin kind of brought it into the forefront with their use of it. So polyester is great for that, but it's hard on the arm, especially if you string it too tight. Nice thing now with polyesters, they are getting softer and more powerful. If you're making a jump from a multi to a polyester, that's a big jump. If you can go to a hybrid first, you know, with a poly main and multi-filament cross, you're going to get some of the benefits of that without being so tight. If you really want to jump all the way up, jump to a softer, you know, polyester string, you know, in our category, that would be like RPM rough, RPM powers in that too, and string it on the low end, really high 40s. I don't know what head size you're in, but high 40s is best. And just be willing, if you don't break it after a while, to restring.
Gotcha. Very cool. Tony has a good question here. What breaks first, a low tension string or a high tension string on synthetic gut string?
A low tension would break more quickly because you're going to have more string movement.
Hmm.
You know, you're going to get, when you go low, you're going to get more comfort, you're going to get more power, you'll get more string movement, but you're going to create more friction in your strings.
Nice, nice. Let's see. We have a question about, okay, here we go. Can you recommend one type of Babolat string with equal parts spin, control, and power for an all-court player at the 4-0 level?
Oh, we want it all, don't we? And that's
Yes, we do.
tricky, you know. I mean, I think, but I think this is where, you know, this is the constant challenge for manufacturers, Babolat, and all of us, is that, you know, our consumer is A, better educated due to programs like this, but B, the expectation level is higher. We talked about footwear earlier, like, you know, if you got a blister before, you just deal with it. Now, if you don't like a shoe, you just turn it back. You know, polyester strings have gotten us this great spin and control, but now people want more power, they want more comfort, so they're going softer. So you want to look at a polyester string, and when we talk about a polyester string, it used to be just polyester. Now they're doing, you know, these strings I'm showing you are more co-polys, where they're adding other materials to soften them. So typically those are a little more expensive than a basic poly, which is more just extruded poly, but spend a little more to get, you know, something like an RPM blast, an RPM rough, or even an RPM power that will give you softer, because the setup of the string is softer. The materials have softened it up. Or you can go to a hybrid. I like the hybrid system a little bit better, depending on your breakage. You know, if you're not breaking a lot, put the poly main on that. If you can afford it, I love gut main poly cross. That's a favorite on the tour if they're not using polyester. That will give you the best tension maintenance, power, and playability over the lifetime of the racket.
Yeah, this is a great segue into the next question, which I think you might have even answered already. Which Andrew asks: Babolat vs gut is a great string for sure, but does the cost of gut negate its use? So
it's all about playability over time. So, you know, gut string, you know, Kleister's now is trying to come back in the tour, which is great. She uses all gut, great. Federer at times can use all gut. He mixes it up. Sometimes on grass will go all gut for more power. You know, a lot of these guys are gut hybriding. Djokovic would be in that. Sharapova would be in that. Gut, I've been to the gut factory. It's a very intense product. It takes an intestine and a half of a cow to make a set of gut. And it takes a month to make the gut. So for the price, I think it's a great value. And for power and tension maintenance, there's nothing like it. Nothing comes close. It really depends how long you keep it. But it's the engine to your car. This is why Porsche charges you so much to upgrade to a better engine. You know, this is your engine. And it's tricky because we're talking about what you like. So Nadal wouldn't like gut because it's not enough control. He loves a polyester string because it radically changed his game so he can swing super hard and create the spin. Whereas, you know, Kleister likes to hit the ball a little flatter, more through the court. So she likes gut because of the responsiveness that she gets and the great feel, because it's gonna elongate more at impact.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you, Allan. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Farhan. So maybe you have a good racket recommendation here. I play with a Wilson Pro Staff 100 LS with Wilson Rip Spin. It is 16 by 15. There we go again. I like it, but I can't find new ones anywhere. What do you think I should change to?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to probably be closest to really RPM power in that string. That's going to give you the closest feel to it in our line. But this is going to be, you know, trial and error, you know, and this is where manufacturers, you know, sometimes are changing. You know, Wilson's not so much like that, but sometimes these guys change strings a lot. And some of it's, to the point earlier we were talking about rackets, just cosmetic. They just change the packaging. So you've got to be careful about it. But, you know, understand the variables, you know, talk to your local stringer and see what he's carrying that be in the softer range.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay. Well, we talked a little bit about this one, about the developments with more comfortable rackets, but ABM Lulu asks, what kind of rackets can protect your arm?
Well, it starts with the stringing. So, I mean, polyester is great for spin and control, but that's going to be one effect to it. You know, what we've seen is, so
Racket Factory over there.
So this is a shocker to me. So this is called the Pure Strike racket. Now, what's tricky with Babolat is basically you can have, this is an 18 by 20. This is the team, which is actually a little bigger head size in a little lighter weight. So, you know, a lighter weight's going to make it more maneuverable. So part of what hurts your arm would be A, choose the right string. We talked a lot about that. B, find the right weight for your arm. So this racket is 10.1 ounces unstrung. So sometimes these heavier rackets give you more power, but if you're late to impact, you're losing control, but it's also harder on your arm. So find the right string, find the right weight for it. And then this is a 100 square inch head size up from 98. That's going to give you more power and more margin for error. So this racket's been a shocker because I've had, you know, people at demo days who were in bigger oversized rackets, who were higher level lady players, 4045 players playing league tennis, who have loved this racket because they like to feel in control of this, but it's not super lightweight. You can get even lighter. We call our rackets light when we go there, 9.5 ounce. So now I'm getting lighter, more maneuverable, but less power. This is a good mid-range depending on your level. So that's part of it. We've added vibration dampening to all our rackets because of this concern, because people like the spin and control of poly. But something like this that has more control would be good. And this is where it's tricky because a powerful racket doesn't necessarily give me more power. If the power level is too high for me, I start missing. I don't swing as fast. So some people, I've had people switch from an arrow to a thinner beam like this, hit the ball harder because they swing faster because they're more comfortable with the control level of the racket. Allan, can you tell me what's right for me? That's going to be a little trial and error on your part because it's finding your best comfort level. With the demo process, I would advise A, listening to your instincts, but B, play with people you normally play with and say, hey, how's the level, how's the spin on my ball? How's the power on my ball? Because you might feel like you're hitting it harder and like there's no change, or it's worse, or it's better. They're all going to tell you, play with people you normally play with. They'll give you a great response on what you like. You're trying to find the most powerful racket you can control.
Awesome. Thanks, Allan. So we'll give away some stuff in a sec. But this is a good one, which any advice on how to increase the duration of strings, not losing significant tension?
So how to make your strings last longer.
Yeah, exactly. Where they don't lose like too much tension, it seems.
Yeah, and that's really, what you get with polyester. You get great lasting string that any poly, Babolat included, after 20 hours, you're going to lose about half your tension. Tension loss not noticed as much with poly because it's less responsive. Hybriding with a multi-filament or natural gut in the cross will help you with some of that tension loss. Gauge will have some effect on that. Having more control, a thicker gauge is going to help you with durability. A little bit with control, you'll have feel a little more control during the tension loss because it's a thicker gauge. But it's harder on your arm, so that's your trade-off.
Got it. Thanks. Let's see. Oh, this is really good, actually. And I've had some teammates who they ask me, because I captain teams, and they say, are we playing on hard court or clay court? And, so they figure out what shoes to bring. So do you have any recommendations on clay court shoes versus hard court shoes? Is there a different for a club level player?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't have my clay court shoes with me, unfortunately, to show you, but the difference is in the sole. So this sole, you can see, is more made really kind of for either like a multi-surface. But what you're going to find is there's a blade construction, which is more like a herringbone, that comes to a point. And it's a blade construction. Like if you watch pros playing on clay, you see them hitting their shoes. They're kicking the clay out. So since the sole comes to a blade like this, it helps you stop better, but also the clay doesn't stay in it. Whereas a hard court sole, you can see this doesn't come to a point. It's going to give me better grip and better durability. I don't need to worry about that with the clay shoe because the surface is less hard on my shoes. Typically, the compound of the rubber tends to be softer on a clay court shoe, again, because that surface is not as hard. But if you're playing a lot on clay, you want a clay bottom. For us, we make it in our jet shoe. In Europe, we've got clay bottoms since clay's more popular there. The funny thing for us in the US is that, we're mostly hard court here. Around the world, it's mostly clay court. So the clay court sole really makes a difference.
Awesome, Allan. Well, at this point, I know we talked about potentially giving people some like cool prizes and stuff. So I have some stuff, and then I wanted to check in if there's anything that you could probably give away, maybe perhaps from Babolat.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, I have some quiz questions lined up, and hopefully you'll like the questions. But you want to maybe tell them about like one thing that you'd be able to give away, and then I can ask the question.
Yeah. So we're going to give away string to start with.
Sweet.
So this is the first set of string we're going to give away. So I don't know. This is RPM BS. So this is natural gut with a coating. So really, it's showing you here black, but it's really tan inside, just has a coating on the top of it. So it's natural gut, 16 gauge with a 17 gauge poly setup. It's a thinner gauge on the poly because it's, the poly will last just as long or better even than that. So it's a great setup for your racket. This is the hybrid we're talking about. Great setup. Used on the Pro Tour. Sometimes they use all poly. This is definitely a good way to go.
Love it, Allan. So did you want me to ask a question, or did you have a question? We can go either way.
Ask the question. It's up to you.
Sweet. Okay, I'll ask it. All right. What year was Babolat founded? This might be tough. I wish I could control the Google searching that is going on at this moment.
It's funny because the founder of tennis, about a year into tennis, came to Babolat and said, "Hey, you know, they were using steel strings, and Babolat was making natural gut for medical use and for violins."
Wow.
And so it was actually sheep gut for a while until World War II came, and there was a shortage. So then it switched to cow gut.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. Well, 2000 tennis coach was the first Googler, answer for for the prize. So well done. A lot of you actually got it. So I'm sure a lot of you know it actually even without Googling. But so 2010 tennis coach, please email me at mirbon@tennisfiles.com. If you can't find it, just go on the Tennis Files Summit page or tennisfiles.com and you'll scroll down and see my email somewhere. So please email me. But congratulations on winning the string there. That's fantastic. Let's see. Okay. And then I can, yeah, you can go ahead and do another one if you'd like, Allan, and we can do that.
Okay, this is RPM Power. It's RPM Power 17 gauge. This is a new grip for us. It's a comfort grip. It's a Syntec Evo. It's perforated to help you with sweat absorption. So people like different things in grip. Great grip. The question is, who on the Pro Tour uses this string?
Oh, man. Yeah, and if you could see the chat there, Allan, that would be great too, so we can monitor. See them coming in. We've got Djokovic.
See them coming in. Let me know.
Yeah, we've got Djokovic. We got team.
It's team.
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 Boom. Okay. Mr. William Peak, you are the winner. So please.
Yeah, so it's Dominic Team.
Sorry. I apologize, William. I didn't want to excite you. TJ Schaefer is the winner.
Okay.
Yeah, TJ said team. So well done to you. And same thing, please email me at mirbon@tennisfiles.com so we can get your information to send it to you. Congrats, TJ. Well done. Very good. Awesome. Cool. So I can flip over to what I can also give away as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, I've got something. I got else here. So we're gonna do. This is RPM Rough, 17 gauge with damper. It's a custom damp. This dampener as a centerpiece, you can move back and forth depending on the damper you want. We didn't really talk about dampeners. Do dampeners make it easier on your arm? No, they do not. They change the sound of your strings. Do you like the sound muted? Do you not? Pete Sampras used a dampener. Agassi put a rubber band in. Nadal uses this dampener. Some Chang does not use a damper. It just depends the sound you like on your racket. So set of RPM Rough, 17 in the yellow, in the custom damp.
Got it. Awesome. And okay, cool. Did you want me to ask one or did you want to ask the question? Either way.
Okay, here's the question. The Australian Open women's winner, what was the cosmetic on her racket?
Oh my gosh. Nice.
Do you know that?
That's a tough one. I mean, yeah, we'll monitor the chat here.
I have the racket here to show you.
Oh man, I have an
idea. He used to come out with the song to his exhibitions that I really liked, so we can go over that if the winner comes out.
Yeah, we can.
Babolat winner. It was a Babolat Pure Drive.
So we're getting
racket.
We're getting USA flag. USA flag.
USA flag is correct. That's this racket.
Nice. Okay, I believe.
Pure Drive racket, USA flag. We did bring these to Rackets market early, right? Because we had to bring them early because we wanted to use them for the Olympics, which now is next year. We did this in the Pure Arrow. We did it in the Pure Strike. We did it in the Pure Drive. So it's not a different racket. It's just a different cosmetic in the Pure Drive. In the Pure Arrow comes 2, 3, and 4 grip sizes. There's not a lot of these left. We just brought some in to the market to show it. I think it's beautiful. And so, you know, are you proud to be American? Agassi's song that he would come into for his exhibitions.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Simcoe Tennis again. Congrats. Cool icon there, actually. And email me, of course, at mirban@tennisfiles.com, and we'll get that, you know, to you. Sweet. Awesome, Allan. I have some stuff too, unless you have more. But so we've got a let's see if I can bring it up. So Precision Hydration, they gave us some of these packs of hydration products. I'm not sure if you can see that properly, but I will send you this packet here, which is, you know, quite good. I've actually used this on the court, and it's helped me stay hydrated. And so I can ask the question, which is going to be, who won the 2015 Wimbledon championships on the female side?
Wow, we're making it tough, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We're trying. Crickets so far. Hopefully somebody will make. But while we look, I mean, how's everything been with you, Allan, as far as you know, just work and developing stuff for Babolat and helping with them with it? How's everything going?
It's good. You know, I mean, I think it's you know, my time really now is this time when I've not been able to see people, unfortunately, which is what I really love to do, is really to learn how to communicate better. This is what's so great about what you do and your podcast. You know, I'm starting on Instagram.
Sweet.
Actually worked with iMac and starting to do some video on some product, but you know, I'm certainly changed my perspective on marketing and what an incredible craft that is. And I'm not claiming to be a great marketer, but wow, I really learned a lot in that process, and why marketing is such a highly skilled area.
Yeah.
You might want to talk about who on the tour, why hydration is so important, in where there's been problems on the tour with that. Remember, some people who go into serious cramping for a while, you couldn't even touch the guy if he went to cramping because it would default him. You know, Chang had some really serious issues with cramping on the tour, being the hard worker that he is.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, I definitely want to suggest that everybody checks out one of the summit sessions by Andy Blow from Precision Hydration that we've had on the show. And it's really interesting perspective on, you know, how we should be hydrating. And it's, you know, I think it's, I think a lot of people make the mistake of drinking way too much water and not enough, you know, salt content and electrolytes as well. And sometimes people even overdo like the hydration products as well. So that can be an issue. And it's really surprising, actually, the recommendations. And also another thing is really knowing what kind of sweater are you? You know, maybe I'm a heavy sweater and Allan is a light sweater. So that kind of determines too how much sodium you need and all that. So yeah, it's very interesting for sure. And it's scary. And especially when we get back on the court after not playing much, hopefully you're keeping up with your workouts at home at least, but it's going to be even more paramount to be able to hydrate properly to prevent.
Well, I think especially now with it getting warmer, your body has to you're going to be sweating more than you think. Now it's different in different climates. So I'm in California, which isn't as humid, so you're going to sweat more and not notice it. Like you can go out to the desert. Unfortunately, BMP didn't happen this year, which is a fantastic tournament. I love that event.
Amazing, yeah. In
the desert, you're sweating more than you think, but it's so dry you don't realize it. Other areas, you're going to sweat even more when it's humid. But the timing of his message is so critical because it's all getting warmer now. We got to really you got to let our body get used to that and pay attention to hydration. That's why it's so funny when you watch after a match and you watch these pros playing, how quickly they want to get off the court and get recovered.
Yeah.
So recovery is critical. So not only when how you hydrate, but when, and paying attention to that, and especially, being an older athlete like myself, I'm in my 50s. A younger guy can recover a little more easily if he makes a mistake. As you're older, it's a little harder to recover. That engine's, maybe not working as well.
For sure, Allan. Well, there's one more prize I'll give away, and this one is actually an even higher amount of sodium in this one, and let me just try to click my screen. Oh, there we go. So this is another precision hydration product. Excuse the pronunciation. So I'll just ask this question here, and I have it saved. So, and actually, you can help me out with this, Allan. Who is the highest ranked WTA player who uses Babolat? So we're getting Mizra. Wait, I don't know if these are the right.
Muguruza?
I saw Muguruza, but that was a while ago, I think, right?
She got to 1, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's the female side, guys. People are saying Nadal.
Well, Nadal's in the arrow.
Yeah. So I'm seeing people say, did I not say that correctly? Oh man. So let me adjust the question, and I apologize for this. But what I meant to say is, who is currently the highest ranked female Babolat player? So, oh man, this could be a tough one to let's see. All right. I don't know have you seen the answer yet, Allan? Because if you have, then I'll.
I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen the answer come through yet.
Okay. Okay. And then once you see it, let me know, and you can identify it, and then I'll actually go back and scroll back and make sure that it wasn't said before. And if I mess up, I'll have a backup prize. Okay, so I think I might have seen it. Do you see the I don't know.
While you read them off, I can let you know.
Okay, some people said Kenin, Ashley Barty, Carolina Pliskova.
It's Pliskova. It's Pliskova. She's number 3 in the world.
Okay, let me scroll back.
Barty uses head.
Yeah. Let's go. Okay.
Kenin is 4. At least that's the way I see the rankings right now. I just looked up on Google to make sure I'm right. I know they fixed them.
Me too. So did I. I saw
Kenin it. It's Pliskova, Kenin, won the Australian Open with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I have Andrew Finkel here as the winner. So please email me. And if somebody has any disputes, I have it as me reading off that question at like 326 or so. So I see Pliskova. But if you have evidence, just screenshot it and let me know.
Yeah, but I see the WT. I looked him up on my phone as Pliskova at 3 and Kenin at 4. So they're right. Both those are pure drive users.
Beautiful, beautiful. So are we good with the giveaway stuff, Allan? I think
I've got one more. This is 16 gauge with our Pro Tour over grip as a combination. So I've got that to give away.
Awesome. All right. Do you have a question, or do you want me to go for one? Oh, Allan, are you there?
Yeah, I'm thinking about. Okay. Oh. How many French Open titles has Nadal won?
Ooh. Ooh, I think I
see Decima racket for him, which he loved.
I think I see it. I'll read off the answers, and you can say if it's. I'm pretty sure it's named already. We've got 12, 7, 11.
11.
Is it 11? Got it.
Which is amazing.
It is.
La Decima did great for us. It just means 10 and yeah.
Wait, why am I seeing on Google it says 12? Is it 12, Allan?
12? I thought it was 11. Did I make a mistake?
That's okay. I mean, yeah, we'll double check to make sure about this.
Double check it, yeah.
Yeah. it's just so many guys. It's hard to keep track. You know, that's how hard it is. But we'll look it up in a sec, and we will make sure. Just we'll have Allan double check for you on the Babolat. But yeah, but I appreciate your answers, guys. I'm just blabbering to give Allan time here. But yeah, these have been some great prizes so far, and I just want to thank Babolat for all the prizes and also precision hydration as well. But yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, this is the time to really pay attention to your body and to your recovery to get back playing again. I mean, I think it's super exciting to have that possibility around the corner for us to play again.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, it's cool. I can highlight this answer right now. 12, and then I'll just, you know, if that's
the 12,
that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing, but we'll verify. So it's we'll just go with this. And so, you know, the first 11, the first one with 12 can email me, and then, you know, if you have evidence that it's 11, then you can email me too. You know, it's fine. Just provide the screenshot. But we'll go with that, I guess, just because I see it on the internet. But the internet,
okay, that's my mistake. Sorry, guys, I should know that.
no, it's okay. I mean, it's you know, it's just so many titles. I didn't even know, to be honest. Like, I had to Google it myself because I wasn't sure. But it just flies by. But let's see. I'll maybe gosh, just all the questions are now leapfrogged by these answers. So I was gonna try to see if I don't think I can go backwards, but so Allan, as far as like choosing gear, and I know it's been like an hour and a half too, so um what's your overall suggestion for us to be able to not make mistakes and not choose gear that's not going to help us? Like, what's the overall approach that we can keep in mind always as we're trying to figure out the best gear for our game?
Well, it's, you know, we were talking about Sangha switching rackets. It's the process is an ongoing process. You know, you're trying to find the best sensation for your hand. Rackets continue to improve, but pay attention to everything affects it. Find the right footwear choice from the ground up. And work with your expectations. I really want a durable, supportive shoe. That shoe is going to be less comfortable, but will give you the support depending on the type of mover you are. Maybe you prefer a lightweight shoe, and because you like how light it is, it's easy to move around. Just understand it won't last as long. It will be a little less supportive. So there's your advantage drawback. Maybe you have a wider foot, so you got to find the right wider fitting shoe like we have in our Sfx. In terms of apparel, you know, you might not know why something feels good, but make sure you find something with the right fabrics in materials you need. If you prefer cotton, that's fine. But if you're in a more humid environment, you might need to go to more of a polyester just to help you with sweat wicking. You know, in terms of racket performance, you know, understand that, you know, the racket and the string work together to give you the performance you want. You know, what we haven't talked a lot about in that's a key factor is also the grip. So on the Babolat side, we've got dry grips for if you sweat a lot, but maybe you don't sweat a lot. You prefer a tackier grip. We've got tacky grips. So you're going to find the right performance you need there. Sometimes you'll prefer an over grip because you like to change them a lot. Other people will just replace the grip itself. You know, even grip shape. Some grips will, like our Syntec team, are thinner, give you more feel, but less padding. Other teams, when I like the Syntec Evo grip that I gave away, is going to give you great sweat absorption. It's a little thicker, will give you more cushioning. It's all a matter of personal preference. Find what you like. And that's all part of the process. And that's an ongoing process. We're all kind of tinkering, right? When you're thinking about your game, you're trying new things. In racket, understand the beam width, the length, and the head size all determine power. So the thicker the beam, the more power I get. The longer the length, the more power I get. The smaller the head, the more control and maneuverability. The bigger the head, the more power I get, but less maneuverability through the air.
Awesome, Allan. Well, wow, it's been an hour and a half, over an hour and a half. So I just want to thank you, and I just want to say, I really feel privileged to be able to talk to so many great experts, including yourself. I mean, you have exhibited obviously an amazing knowledge about tennis gear and equipment, and it's really helpful to have somebody like you on because you're our expert here with regards to that, and it's really kind of overlooked. You don't want to just like pick up any racket or any shoe or something just because it's on sale or whatever, and to go out there and use it, because it could actually cause you more harm than enjoyment. And so you really want to invest in yourself, especially when it comes to your feet and your arms, and all that. So I really love Babolat, and I've been using Babolat for a long time, and I really enjoy it. So just kudos to the brand and to you for all the innovations you've been making. And you've been in the game. This is 1875. That's amazing. So very established brand. But I want to thank you, Allan, for coming on to this session, and really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate what you're doing to educate the tennis public. This is a great forum. I've really been fortunate would be with someone like Babolat. And what I like about this company perspective is that it's about personalizing the product to you. It's not about selling one product, but understanding what the product is and who it's for. And I want the customer to decide that, because I want you to have the most enjoyable tennis experience you can have. And like we talked about earlier, that's ongoing. Now you've got more choices than ever. So understanding those choices and what you like, because no one can tell you what you like. It's you. I mean, that's what's so great about tennis. It's a very personal sport. When I win in tennis, I personally feel great. When I lose, I personally don't feel as great. But it's a very personal sport where you're finding out what's right for you. And that can change over time, and be open to that.
Yeah, 100%, Allan. Well, just want to get this banner up for you. There we go. But yeah, thanks again, Allan, and all the best to you. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon. And obviously, and so if people want to follow you, where should they go?
I'm at Babolat_SoCal on Instagram. That's probably the best way to follow me. I just started that. I'm, an old guy trying to learn the ropes on the internet, so it's going to be a while. But so let's talk about that. I will be posting more, product information, different things like that on that Instagram.
Cool. And that was Babolat_SoCal, you said?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I just put that in the chat for you all to check out. Cool. Well, everybody, thanks a lot for joining. And as I mentioned, if you have additional questions, and email me, and I'll try to get back to you, and maybe I'll consult Allan on the answers. But all the best to you, and have a great weekend. And please keep watching the summit. Check out the All Access Pass if you haven't gotten it yet, if you want full access to all the sessions for life. And that's about it. So thank you. And thank you, Allan. And take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.